All right, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of From the Field with the Idaho Wheat Commission. We are joined today by Xiaoli Etienne, Dr. Xiaoli Etienne. She's the Endowed Chair of Risk Management at the University of Idaho, and I will let her introduce herself here in a minute. I just want to, I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Brittany Hurst Marchant. I'm the Executive Director of the Idaho Wheat Commission. And a few years ago, in the Wheat Commission, driven by demand from the wheat industry in Idaho, realized that there was a gap in the industry that we needed to fill, and that was risk management. We really felt that if people went away to school and studied risk management and came back to the farm, that would be a huge benefit to the family-owned operations that make up Idaho's wheat industry. So in 2018, the Idaho Wheat Commission created an endowed chair, a $2,000 endowment in where we invested grower dollars to endow a chair position that is actually shared between the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences and the College of Business at the University of Idaho. And Dr. Etienne was chosen to fill that position. So she's joining us today to talk about how you can apply practical risk management skills on the farm to mitigate risk and increase profitability. So Xiaoli, if you would like to just go ahead and introduce yourself, and I will add that this is an open opportunity for anyone to ask questions. So you can just unmute your microphone. You can use the reaction button at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand, or you can type your question into the chat, and we'll make sure that it gets answered. So without further ado, Xiaoli, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Brittany, for having me in this episode of From the Field. So I'm very excited to be here and share some of my knowledge on commodity risk management with your audience. So my name is Xiaoli Etienne, so currently Associate Professor of Agriculture Economics, and also the Wheat Commission, Endowed Chair in Commodity Risk Management, as Brittany mentioned, with University of Idaho. And I took this position almost 2 years ago. So most of my work is trying to just find ways to help growers and also other market participants to manage the price risk. So again, I'm very excited to be here. So back to you, Brittany.
All right, thank you so much. So Xiaoli, let's start with just the basics. What can farmers, what do they need to know about risk management? Go ahead and talk to us about how we, why that's so important and what, the basic steps of that are.
Yeah, sure. So risk management, right, is a very, very, general term. You have like production risk, legal risk, market risk, all sorts of different type of risk. But here, most of the risk we're trying to focus on, at least, from my perspective or my work is focusing on the market risk. So that, involves the risk, the price that will move against your operation, right? So for wheat growers, this basically means that the price of wheat might, go too low when you are ready to sell your crop. So that's a big risk, for producers if they cannot get a price that can cover their production cost. So to manage, this type of the risk, right? Mostly we will use some, instruments, which the most basic instrument we use is called the futures market, right? So Brittany, do you want me to go ahead and explain a little bit about how, the futures market and how that actually works?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, yeah, so sure. So so the fundamental strategy that you want, if you want to manage your price risk, is to like look at the futures market. So in very simple terms, right? So a futures market is like a special marketplace, like growers, merchandisers, exporters, millers, bakers. So they come together and make agreements to buy or sell crops like wheat and also other agricultural products like cattle and milk, right? So for transaction to be occurred at a future time. So these agreements are called, futures contracts, right? So let's say you want to buy a wheat futures contract for September delivery. And if you check the price, which I think, this morning it's around $6.15 per bushel. So if you buy this contract or purchase this contract, so you are essentially agreeing to buy wheat in September, at $6.15 per bushel. And you can also sell the same wheat futures contract, which means that you are promising to sell wheat, 5,000 wheat, in 3 months, at $7 per bushel. So this, is the a key aspect of this, futures trading is that all the contracts that we have, very standardized terms. So which, it basically means that, the futures exchange, sets the terms of the agreement, like the quantity, quality, delivery date, and also the location of the delivery, right? So, for example, like a Chicago wheat, like September futures contract, right? So this will entail like 5,000 bushels of of soft red winter wheat, and to be delivered around September 20th, along the Illinois waterway, right? So this standardization basically makes the market, very liquid, and everyone can trade the futures contract, just like trading stocks like Apple or Google stocks. So it's very similar. And you can also, if you buy a contract today, you can get out of your obligations. So you don't need to worry that, the wheat shows up at your doorstep in September, right? And you can just offset your position by sell the contract, and then you will have no obligations. And or, if you actually sold a contract and then you do not want to deliver this, 5,000 bushels of wheat to Illinois waterway, right? So you can also buy the contract back, and then you will have no obligations. So you will make money or lose money based on the price, that you buy the contract, you sold the contract, and the price you purchase the contract. So it doesn't matter, which order you take, but it's always the price difference that you sold and the price you paid that, that, you can calculate the gains and losses based on that. So that's, the futures trading, and, and that way, by using this, utilizing this, futures trading, you can help, manage the position in your cash market. Because for most of growers, right, so you will, sell your wheat to your local, elevator, co-op, but then by utilizing this, futures trading and recognizing that the price of those futures contract moves, together with the cash price, you can help, using you can use this, the futures tools to manage your potential price risk in case the price declines or moves against your operation. So so that's just some basics of the futures market, which is the number one tool that most of the people use when they talk about managing the price risk. And so yeah, so I can
Xiaoli,
go
on futures trading for those in the industry,
Mhm.
what kinds of questions do they come with for you, and what kind of resources are you able to provide for them or direct them to?
So, so for futures, right? So first of all, it's it's very standardized, right? So every day we check the prices, and but this price reflects the global market, right? So what's happening to the crop in Australia, in Argentina, and what's the situation between the war in Russia and Ukraine, and also the global demand. But then like what really matters to the growers in the industry is the local cash price. So the local cash price, essentially they move together with the futures price, but then it reflects the local market condition and how it deviates compared to the global condition. So a lot of times, like, so with the University of Idaho extension, right, so we have, linked, to some of the cash prices and also the futures prices. And we also, compute the basis, which is another term that I can talk about later, that, really plays a very, very important role in in how effective your, hedging strategy is. So the resources, at U of I that we are still working on developing, but this, basically we're trying to really providing a space that to provide all those information. And if there's no demand, we can also help look into their marketing plan and to help them to see based on the historical evidence which marketing strategy tends to work the best. And in fact, this summer, I'm actually, working with a graduate student, trying to look at, based on last 20 years, prices, right? So which hedging strategy tends to perform the best on average that gives the growers the best price that possible. So we will, stay tuned for that part of results, and hopefully by the end of summer, we will tell you, be able to, hey, if you sell 25%, every month from, February to April, right? And then sell the rest at harvest. This might, give you a very, good price compared to just sell everything at harvest. So we're trying to see, whether this type of strategy, work, which one tends to work the best.
What is the bottom line advice that you would give to someone? Obviously, there's been a lot of volatility in the markets over the past year since Russia invaded Ukraine. And really, it seems like anytime any major news comes out of that Black Sea region, the markets adjust for it. So what advice would you give to growers who maybe have bins, on-farm storage bins full of wheat that they're waiting to sell until the markets hit the best price available? Is it best to just sit it out and wait, or should you make some contracts at a price that is still profitable for you and reasonable? And if you miss the high, that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah, sure. So in fact, I just got this, the news, Idaho grains, this magazine in my, mailbox this morning. I guess I can show here, but the Idaho grains magazine, I think there's one, grower profile that mentioned that, every time when they, decide to sell, when they sell the contract, next day the price went up by, 10 or 15, cents per bushel, right? So it's, the bottom line is, it's really hard to predict what the price will be, like, in 1 month, 2 months, or, it's like, I think, many people say that, like the chance of, successfully, predicting the price in 1 month, it's pretty much like flipping a coin, right? Just like so many factors that's affecting the prices, right? So we just have this, the dam that's in Ukraine got, destroyed. That's, sending the wheat prices, a bit higher, 2 days ago, and today the price went down a little bit. So the bottom line is, it's really hard to know what the price will be in a couple of weeks or in a few months. And so as a grower, right, so I think the best strategy is, not trying to trace the highs because you never know, right? So it's really hard. It's easy to look, in hindsight, say, hey, I should have sold here, but then in real time, it's impossible to predict that. So so I think, the best strategy from a grower's perspective to, carefully, calculate the cost of storage and compare that to, the prices today and then see if you are still, profitable at the point. And then you can, make a, series of sales. You don't have to sell everything all at once because, you don't, the bottom line is you don't want to, put all the eggs in one basket, right? So you want to spread out your sales, right? So have some, price target. So if, for instance, today, if the price, hits your target level, and then you can sell a portion of your crops, and then, and then you have another, a price target, and maybe a few days later, the price target hit again, and you sell another portion. So in the end, hopefully by using this, spread selling strategy, which can help you to eventually, reach a price that's, that, on average, will not, will cover all your costs at the bare minimum, will not make you go bankrupt. So, and so this is, like a way that, we call, kind of, hedging, right? So hedging is, basically trying to protect the bare minimum, not to, be able to cover, your losses that, not let you go bankrupt.
Xiaoli, when you were talking about the hedging strategy and which strategy you feel like will work best in the next week or two, is there a timeline, or is there a time frame, or how do you get that out to the industry?
So are you referring to the study we're working on that, when we expect to have a result on that?
Right.
Or so we collected all the data, and thanks to my colleague actually who is here, I think, Pat Hetzenbuehler, so we were able to get some, cash prices. And so we are still, trying to refine all the strategies. So we're looking at, the number one, you just sell, the baseline would be just sell everything at harvest. And the second strategy would be just looking at historically, when the prices tend to be the highest. And then turns out that, for Idaho, the prices, the price level, is usually the highest between, February and March. Okay, so for a, a marketing year. So, and then we try to see, if we can spread out the sales in those 4 months, like how this, compared to a baseline. And then we can also have, a bunch of other, strategies to like sell 10%, right, in January, another 10% in February, and then sell, maybe 25% in harvest, and compare those, across, different strategies. So the timeline will be hopefully, by the end of this month, we can have some, preliminary, results. And we're also, drafting a extension, UFI extension publication based on these results. And as soon as we have something, available, we will make sure to share with you guys on the results that we find. But of course, every year is different, right? So we're only looking at the, the average, overall, which strategy tends to give you the highest, price possible and give you the lowest, variation in the price that you will receive with your crop.
What are some of the strategies to manage risk associated with variable input costs, as opposed to selling grain in futures markets?
So that's, I would have to, admit I'm not a, expert in this, right? So I'm less, familiar with the, the machinery, for instance, right? So machinery, I guess, it's very hard, right? So there's a lot of, shortage in the supply chain. You just can't get the parts. And I guess, the situation has improved, but with the machinery, right? So I heard that Bill Flory, for instance, he is sharing, the the combine with another, grower, so that can help, reduce your cost. And I guess, with the fertilizer, the price has declined quite a bit, but the price of fertilizer was very high last year. So managing so for fertilizer, I guess, you can, again, I'm not a production specialist, but I guess you can try to secure your fertilizer not all at once, right? Because you never know when the price that you get is the highest or the lowest, right? So you try to just set a range, say, hey, if I can get the fertilizer price at this level, I will be happy, right? So once the price hits that target, you secure a portion of your fertilizer, and then maybe there's another target that's lower than your first price target, then you secure the other portion of the fertilizer that you need. So that's I guess one strategy to work around with this the skyrocketing the input prices. And for the fuels, right? So for fuels, the diesel prices, for instance, we do have some futures contracts that can help us to manage this risk. We have the actually the diesel futures contract and also the oil futures contract. So those can also be used, but I guess the cost of doing this type of risk management is high. It's not like managing the crop price risk. The elevators, they offer those contracts that mimics the behavior of the futures hedging. But with like managing this hedging the fuel price risk, you have to do that yourself through brokers, not through the elevators, and that would be require quite a bit of work compared to working with your local elevator.
Xiaoli, what is something you wish every farmer understood about risk management?
So I think that so number one is I guess have a very solid understanding of your production cost and know what price you need to sell to cover your production cost. And every marketing plan should start with a careful, just a, spreadsheet to lay out all the cost items and set your goal to figure out, I need to sell at this price to cover everything. And so that's number one. And number two is do not, chase high prices. And everyone wants to sell at the highest price possible, but that's not feasible. And always just stick to your marketing plan and sell at a price that would, make your, business, operation profitable, maybe, not the highest profitability possible, but make sure that you can be economically sustainable in the long run and also in the short run.
And with that, Xiaoli, can you also talk just a little bit about why risk management is such an important thing to daily operations on the farm?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so sure. So that's, I think, a lot of producers, they try very hard, to maximize the yield, managing, the water, everything, right? So, but I think, an important part that's, very critical to every producer is be able to break even, to make your oil production worthwhile, so that you can feed your family, pay off the farm loans, everything. So that's depends on having a be able to sell at a good price. So managing the price risk is probably I think I heard from some producers that's probably plays it's like in terms of importance is 50% of your the sustainability of your farm, because that determines whether you can pay all your bills.
Good.
And also, because the prices have been becoming so volatile over the past, like 2 or 3 years. And I think, I was looking just at some prices. I think, 1 year ago around this time, the Chicago wheat was like $12, but now it's like $6. right? So no one knows, the price will go down by $6. So if you, have sold, back then, in the last year around this time, you will be able to secure a much higher price compared to, the price today. So we cannot control what the price will be, but we can take actions to mitigate the potential losses because of this, price movements.
How do you use participation in federal farm programs, crop insurance, conservation programs, et cetera, as a tool in managing risk?
Yeah, so I will just go to the crop insurance, right? So crop insurance, you can have the revenue protection, the yield protection. So a lot of times that when we design a marketing plan, we want to work the marketing plan with your crop insurance, decisions. So the crop insurance that's usually you will insure maybe like 50 or 70% of your, the APH, that's the average, the production history, the yield over the past, few years. So you will try to ensure, that that you have this, the crop insurance that in terms of, in case that price declines too much, the crop insurance will have the payment. But then you can use those, the futures price, those risk management tools to help, hit your production, your price target. So a lot of times this, crop insurance does not necessarily able to cover all your production cost. So the revenue production is based on the yield multiplied by the price, right? So if, the yield is too low or the price is too low, right? So that's, can work, in different ways. So having that, the crop insurance will provide, some minimum protection, but to really, have a, to really be able to cover all your production costs or hit your price target, you need to have a, some risk management tools to improve, upon this, minimum layer of protection that's offered by the federal programs. And I think, there's, in terms of the, the PLC, right? So that's the some other, commodity programs with the Farm Bill program that's in place this year. So we don't know exactly what it would be, but there's a lot of complaints that those reference price level are set too low. It's not reflecting, the this the inflation or the price hike over the past few years. So having make sure to work with your make sure that your marketing plan, right? So to work well with your existing, the crop insurance programs and other federal program. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Ryan, did you have more questions?
I don't. Anybody participating? Any questions or comments from those joining from the field today?
Are listening to this podcast or episode here and decide, hey, I'd really like to learn more about this topic. What are some resources that they can use? Is there classes to take? Is there publications that are available currently? What can they do to learn more?
Yes, so that's an excellent question. Thanks, Jill. So at the UFI extension, so we do have, some videos that's, I think, recorded by Brett Wilder that was made a few years ago about managing, commodity price risks using, futures contracts. And I'm also in the process of developing some just a few flyers and also a few short articles about how to write your own marketing plan, and and also the study I mentioned to Ryan that's comparing the hedging outcomes of different strategies. And we also together with some of my colleagues here, including Pat, who is on the this episode today here, in the audience, we actually have a grant that's from the USDA looking into what strategy worked, for the producers in the Pacific Northwest region. And we're trying to, to survey, do a survey of all the growers and see, what their marketing strategies are and see, which one worked best. And along with that project, we will develop, we will have a dedicated, web page that's on the UFI extension to include all those, videos and all the courses and, any publications that that growers or anyone else can access, just with one click of the, button on their website.
All right. Well, thank you, Xiaoli. Do you have any last words for us? I think the biggest takeaway that I got from this was don't chase high prices and stick to your marketing plan. But if you have any little last pearls of wisdom.
Yeah, so I guess, again, it's as you said, it's hard to trace a price, right? But so I would say, the market is very, very volatile, and we have seen, recently, and it's important to have a marketing plan in place, either pre-harvest or post-harvest, and just try to stick to your plan, be disciplined.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to everyone who was able to tune into this episode. If you would like to reference back to this episode in the future or share it with someone else, a neighbor, friend, family member, whatever, we will have the video recording posted to our YouTube channel and the audio recording posted to our podcast platform. Both of those can be found at just Idaho Wheat. If you search for that on YouTube, and then anywhere that you like to get your podcasts from. So we are available. And you can join us again next month. In July, we will have 2 episodes. The first one coming up the soonest is with Dustin Young from the Idaho Grain Inspection Service. And he will just be talking to us a little bit about why, what they do at the Idaho Grain Inspection Service and how you utilizing their services will increase your profitability. So go ahead and watch our social media and our newsletter for information on that, and we will see you back here next month. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Brittany.